Now Rex has a book called It's Hard for Me to Live with Me, a memoir by Rex Chapman with our good buddy, both of our friends,
Yep.
Seth Davis. And it's so exciting to have Rex Chapman on the show right now. Rex, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, guys. How's everything?
Good, good. So Seth sent me a note last week before the book was coming out. He's like, Rex doesn't think people are going to be into this necessarily. He was a little worried. And then LeBron shows up on social media. How did that, with the book in his hand, how did LeBron get involved with the book?
I'm not quite sure. He's always been very friendly when I've seen him, and I bumped into him 2 or 3, 4 weeks ago in Phoenix at a ball game. We chatted for a minute. And next thing I know, the book came out, and he'd found a copy and had posted it on Twitter, which is pretty damn cool.
Rex, it's great to meet you, and thank you.
You
Congratulations
too.
on the book. On the outside, it seems like you're a man who's lived like 100 lives. From basketball prodigy to NBA star to recovering addict to social media star, broadcaster. You work with the Phoenix Suns. I mean, of all these things, what's the most improbable, of all the lives you've lived? Which one do you look back and you go, wow, I can't believe it.
Probably drug addict,
Mm.
drug addict, shoplifter. That every time I start talking about this book, there's several things that are pretty poignant, and but yeah, I still can't believe it was me, um, but it was definitely me. So that's something that I have to grapple with, and you know recovery is a long process, and it's never really over. So once I got out of rehab the last time, I really had to buckle down and figure out why I was doing the things that I was doing and why I was the way I was.
What did you find?
Oh, someone that didn't know themselves very well. I
Mm.
was, a basketball player, and I think that's all I was for my first 32 years on earth. And then I spent 14 or 15 years on painkillers. So, it wasn't until my late 40s, mid to late 40s, that I really developed any sort of coping skills other than pain painkillers and gambling. So I really had to, and of course, it's easier to gamble when you don't have any money. So that was that was taken care of pretty quickly. But yeah, it's been a process.
We're talking to Rex Chapman, whose new book, It's Hard for Me to Live with Me, is out. It's interesting, Rex, I've in the early part of the book, and you are a superstar in Kentucky where basketball is king, and you're getting asked for autographs in the mall when you're in 10th grade. Part of me, who was a bench warmer, said, is it really that hard to live life when you're a superstar basketball player? I'll admit that thought crossed my mind. And I think other people are wondering, you were an incredible player in the NBA as well. So what would you say to someone who said, well, I mean, you had life handed to you on a silver platter because you were so athletically gifted, but still you could see that you were not really happy as a person.
Yeah, it's kind of be careful what you wish for. I started playing basketball because I liked it. It was something to do. We didn't have video games growing up. There was nothing else to do in Kentucky. You played football, basketball, baseball, whatever season it was, that's what you did. Um, but yeah, I was good at basketball, better than all most of the kids my age, and better than kids 2 and 3, 4 grades ahead of me a lot of times. Um, and that's really all I had interest in. I didn't care about school. I didn't care about, many things that I should have, and therefore grew up very one dimensional.
Rex Chapman joining us. It's Hard for Me to Live with Me is the memoir, but you've done so much. I thought the relationship with your dad was pretty fascinating, Rex. At times, it kind of reminded me a tiny bit of the Griffies, just because your dad was a coach, but you
Right.
said he was busy, a basketball coach, obviously, but he was busy with so many other things. He didn't get to a lot of your games when you were younger. That's a famous Ken Griffey Jr., Ken Griffey Sr. Senior never got to watch a junior play in high school because he was busy being a professional baseball player himself. The advice you have out there for sports dads, for people who want to get the best out of their kids, but also want to have a healthy relationship, what would that be?
Ooh, I'm not sure I know the answer to that. My dad wasn't hard on me. I he didn't tell me when to go play or what. I just liked it like that, and I was obsessed with it that way. So he didn't have to worry about me working at things. His biggest thing for me was he would come and watch me play, and most nights that I played, his teams had a game, his college team, so he didn't get to see a lot of those games. When he did come, there was a common theme when I would get done was that I didn't play hard enough. And these are games where I've got 30 and 35 points and I think I'm playing really hard, but I'm a kid. And the difference was I knew that he wasn't judging me based on what he was looking at right there in the moment. He was trying to prepare me for college and the NBA and knew that if he didn't, I probably wouldn't get that instruction. So, yeah, it was volatile at times with my dad, just because I think he expected a lot, but also he knew I was talented and he didn't want me to, just kind of slip through the cracks because I wasn't tough enough.
We're talking to Rex Chapman. Another interesting part of the book was the racial dynamics in Kentucky. When you were a star, you were sort of put on this pedestal as a great white hope. Have things changed in the basketball world since you were playing, in the 80s and 90s? Are things different? It seemed like you were encouraged by the University of Kentucky not to date a black woman. Are we done with all that, or do you still see remnants of that in the college basketball and pro basketball world?
Are we done with it? Where?
Done with it. I mean, I read the story. It was amazing. Yeah. Are white players and black players treated differently coming up through the system?
Ooh, I don't know about that. I do know that I was discouraged from, dating outside of my race while I was in school.
But by the coach?
It was by the coach. My coach, and this is well documented, Eddie Sutton was a great basketball coach, Hall of Famer. I love his family to death. Eddie had an alcohol problem when I was in school. He was 49 years old, and he was getting pressured from, I don't know exactly who, higher ups, boosters, to let me know that it wasn't okay for me to be seen with my girlfriend, who I'd had since high school in our hometown. We also went to college together. That it wasn't okay to see her in public. So we were encouraged to hide and do things behind closed doors or at night. And I didn't understand. I felt like I was being told something morally wrong, and I didn't have any outlet. I didn't have anybody I could go to say anything. I had teammates that knew this. It was an open secret kind of. But the real struggle for me was that my black teammates were dating white girls and they were not being discouraged. So I felt singled out, and I felt extremely sad and angry for my girlfriend Sean Higgs, we're still very good friends. Yeah, it hurt my feelings, but what are they saying to her? They didn't even meet her. So it was just hard to at a young age, 18, 19 years old, I was doing everything I could do for the university and doing it well basketball wise, and didn't have a problem with any of that. It was just the off the court demands and pressures that I was uncomfortable with.
I thought it was funny too, Rex. You said you were compared to Kyle Macy at Kentucky when you modeled your game after Darrell Griffith. Some of that stuff seems ridiculous now.
I know. I just didn't understand why I was being compared to Kyle Macy. And there was another guy named Jim Master that played at Kentucky, around a little older than I am. But our games were my game was nothing like Kyle Macy's game or Jim Master's game. But I was constantly compared to those guys, and it had to be because they were 6'4" and white.
Yeah, I mean, you could fly. I was telling Maggie before the show about, I heard the story of the Dan Patrick Show, the night you took Michael Jordan down. That's how I tell this story. How many?
Rex, I'm surprised you didn't end up as a chapter in The Last Dance.
Yeah, how many did you score against Jordan? It was a high number, I recall.
Yeah, which time, Rich?
Yeah, yeah.
We beat them one year, the year they went 72-10. We sneaked up and beat them. I had 39 and we won going away, and we played them a couple weeks later, and right at the jump ball, Michael elbowed me in the sternum. It was like, oh, it's going to be like this tonight. And it was. He got like 40 in 3/4 in the fourth quarter.
Rex Chapman is joining us. Rex mentioned you lived a lot of lives, and obviously one of them was Kentucky legend. And now we see Kentucky, if we can bring it to present day for a moment. We talked a lot about the book today. Semifinal SEC tournament, 7 o'clock Eastern time. It's your Wildcats against Texas A&M. Can you give us a little pulse of the fan base for the Kentucky Wildcats fan base? Because it's now been since 2011, 2012 season since they last won the title. Where's the fan base right now on Kentucky men's basketball?
Right on the bandwagon, baby. It's that time of year. This team is really exciting. They're really good. So much fun. I don't want this season to end. Such great personalities on the team. And I won't go into too much specifics, but Jeff Shepard's like my little brother. He came to Kentucky after I came to Kentucky. I was in the NBA the whole time he was at Kentucky. Was a great player. This is Reed Shepard's dad. I also know Reed Shepard's mom, Stacy, who I knew probably before Jeff Shepard. She was a point guard, steals leader, SEC, all SEC, assists leader. She was a point guard. Jeff was a crazy athlete, bouncy, athletic, could run and jump. And Reed has the best of both worlds. He's just a fantastic player. Guys love to play with him. I would not want to face the Kentucky Wildcats in this tournament.
I'm sorry, I said semifinal, quarterfinal tonight against Texas A&M. Apologies for that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Rex Chapman, it's hard for me to live with me. What do you want people to get from this who are struggling with addiction, whether it's gambling addiction, whether it's drug addiction, whether it's alcoholism? What advice would you give to, especially to young people with issues like that?
Pride for me is a big thing. Just dropping my pride a little bit so you can show some humility for where you are in life. The main thing I would take away from it is just talk to somebody. Find somebody you can trust, somebody that cares about you, that doesn't care if you break down and cry in front of them, no matter who it is. Find somebody you can trust, and if you can afford it, go to therapy. Therapy's really saved my life.
Rex, last one before you go, just a quick basketball one with your work with the Phoenix Suns. You've become a very prolific social media presence. That's, been a really another one of your lives that you've lived is one online. And it's been really fun to watch you. The blocker charge bit is like an all-time great social media thing. Kevin Durant also has had his dabbles with social media. When you talk to Durant, do you find you guys are kindred spirits a little bit in that way? Or what's something you've learned about Durant that maybe the public wouldn't know?
Oh, man. Kevin Durant's one of my favorite people on the planet. That's so good. I mean, a top 10 player all time. It's just a privilege to get to watch that guy every single night. We don't talk about social media, but I would say we're kindred spirits basketball wise in that anybody that ever comes up to Kevin Durant. In fact, this was a couple months ago. I was at a team function, and there were sponsors and fans and players there and whatnot. And Kevin and I were over in the corner talking, and Tom Chambers came up with his wife, and I guess Tom hadn't talked to Kevin in a while, and his wife had never met Kevin. And Tom came up apologizing, like, "Hey, Kevin, Rex, sorry, I just want to." And Kevin said, "Don't apologize, man." He said, I like talking basketball. I want to talk basketball. That's what Kevin does. And in that standpoint, we're kindred spirits, and that Kevin's all basketball all the time.
Does he get offended by the bus rider stuff? Can you tell that kind of characterization from Charles Barkley really hurts him?
I don't know what the bus rider thing is. What is it?
Barkley,
instead of driving the bus?
Yes.
No.
Yeah.
I honestly, and Charles is one of my great buddies from 35 years. I don't think Kevin listens to anything Charles says.
Rex, do you miss talking to Seth Davis all the time? We love Seth. I mean, that must have been a fun experience.
I do not miss talking to Seth about this stuff.
Oh, it was hard.
I miss talking to Seth, but yeah, the book stuff was really hard.
Yeah.
4 years of just, oh man, it was tough to get through, and he
Mm.
did, he did all the heavy lifting. I'm barely literate.
Well, now we get to yell at him on TV during the tournament. That's one of my
That's right.
favorite. Yeah, we could just Rex. Good luck with the book. It's already doing great. It's hard for me to live with me. I can't put it down. Love it, and yeah, I hope to talk to you soon, buddy. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys.